Welcome to the Sold Too Early Sports Card Podcast. Already banned from Cards HQ after the incident. That's Kai. I'm a bench warmer at Culture Collision, and we are joined today by someone who probably has a darker sense of humor than I ever will. Zion PBGCards. I'm happy I got that right. I almost read it wrong. Zion
Okay.
Kai. How the hell you guys doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm super tired. I woke up probably 3 hours ago. It's now 4 p.m. where I am. I have nothing better to do, so here we are.
Listen, I want to meet some expectations, not all of them, so thank you. And we'll kind of intro everything and talk through some stuff. What I am most excited though, because Kai and Yuzan both attended the Culture Collision show this past weekend in Atlanta. So I don't know who wants to talk first. Kai walked the show. Zion, you were set up.
I was set up and walked.
Okay, so whoever wants to talk about the show first, I'm curious. I want to hear about it. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening or watching too want to hear about it too. So, whoever wants to go for it, take it away.
You want to start us off?
I'll start us off. So this was my first time doing Culture Collision. I'm kind of known for doing Dallas, staying in kind of the southern-ish circuit. But it was my first time doing Culture Collision. Usually I'm busy at that time of the year, but it was really good. I actually enjoyed it. It went a lot better than I had expected from what I heard from other people. A lot of people said it was going to be really influencer heavy. Well, yes, that was true. I thought it was pretty good. I had a decent-ish spot. My table was all the way towards the right in the 600 aisle, so kind of towards that right wall. So everything was already, by the time people got to me, they had already seen 85 different tables.
Okay.
So there's pros and cons to that. Usually that meant the walk-ups weren't nearly as good. But, I mean, walking around to different tables, there was a couple dealers that were reasonable, others not so much. You guys have been around in the last couple weeks and have noticed the significant change in the market and buying and selling and how basically percentage-based it is at this point.
I'll be honest, I don't know the last time I bought a card full 100% comps. Whether it was for myself or in a deal. It really kind of upsets me that I can no longer use an eBay, a PWCC, a Golden, a Leland's, because unfortunately, when it comes to the reselling dealer side of the world, you guys both clearly understand this as well. It is very number focused, and if you snipe a car for a good price, it doesn't matter. Everyone's gonna pull up all or card ladder or whatever else and be like, "Hey, I know what you bought it for. I'm not going to pay this price, even though it's reasonable, or you think it's reasonable versus what you actually paid." It's kind of unfortunate these days. So much of my market, and I'm sure you guys see this too, is I have to stick to online, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or even in-person deals, to just get the margin you need to.
Yeah. I kind of went with a different, maybe not different, but I went to get as many cards as I could to send to PSA before the special ends in a couple days. Friday was kind of rough. I mean, I was walking around, but it seemed like a lot of the tables had been totally bought out by repackers before I got in the show probably 20 minutes after it started, because that's when I got there. And probably a third of the tables, there were already repackers pricing and buying everything out. I was really surprised, but Saturday, there was a lot more foot traffic. I did most of my deals on Saturday. I sat with Lucas at his table for a while. He did some pretty good deals, big deals. So overall, I think it was better than I thought it would be, and I think better than a lot of people maybe thought it would be for whatever reason that was. It was really crowded on Saturday, I will say.
It was.
I didn't think it'd be that crowded. But yeah, it was definitely better than the last one I went to. I went to the first one, I think. Dave, you were there, right?
That was the second one, I believe.
Second one?
So
Yeah.
it was February 2021, because I didn't go last year.
It was definitely better card-wise than that. I had a better time outside of the show at that one, obviously, but switch the Hawks game and whatever. But the show itself, I would give it a 7 or 8 out of 10 probably, which is better than I thought I would give it.
I give it a B+. That was my thoughts on it, because it was good. My theory is at this point, by about 1 p.m. on the very first day, anything that's reasonable at a dealer table is gone. You're not going to find any good deals unless someone showed up late or they bought a card at a ridiculous steal. anything beyond 1 p.m. is gone. And so I stopped walking um, on Friday after about 1-ish p.m. because at that point it wasn't even worth it. But the stuff that I did find before that time, there were a couple good deals here and there because, as a dealer, you get in a little bit early. You try and pluck a few things off as people are setting up, and that worked. But there were so many other people doing it that before the show even opened, it looked like the show was open.
Yeah, that's a really scary thing. I mean, I don't know how you fix that. Obviously, you want a show to have like a lot of selling and trading. Dallas has a great abundance of people to the fact where they have separate rooms other than the main room, which is, in my opinion, a bad thing. But hey, that just shows the amount of people who want to be set up. I'm curious to see though, like Kai and Zion, like what were either your favorite deals or like what was your favorite pickup that like made it home? Like just talk to me about like some of the certain like deals and vibes that you got. And then also Zion on top of that, can you compare it to Dallas this past time? Because obviously I was there as well. Like it was the most crowded I've seen in the last probably year or so. It had incredible foot traffic, especially on that Saturday. Like just give me some thoughts around like comparing this to Dallas if you're able to.
Well, so in comparison to Dallas, usually I do most of my selling in Dallas. So anyone that knows me, when I travel, I usually have one display case, maybe two. In Dallas, I
Okay.
usually have about 8, and I have 2 whole tables that are just chocked full of cards. Because for me, Dallas is a 4-ish hour drive. Anywhere else is many, many, many hours away. So it's a
Do you,
lot
do you
easier for me to sell in Dallas.
do you fly or do you drive?
To Dallas?
Well, no, I know you drive to Dallas, but I meant like to Atlanta.
Everywhere else I fly.
Okay, got it. That
So
makes
I'm
sense.
very restricted on what I can bring, especially if my intention is to buy cards. I only probably bring 20, maybe 30 cards, and whatever I pick up there, I try and move in the show.
Yeah.
But as far as comparison wise, I felt like for me, and this was all part of like I guess my mentality difference between Dallas and Atlanta. In Dallas this year, I was really focused on like percentages. I was like, I need to be at X percent to try and make money. I realized very quickly that a lot of other people have also kind of switched to this metric, and because of that, there's a huge handicap on a lot of people's like buying potential. And so I came up with an operation.
You can
I've,
say
I've,
it. Do it.
I've talked with you about it in the DMs, but I call it "Don't be a pussy." Basically, what I mean by that is like you see a card, you see a big card, and you go, the comps don't make any sense whatsoever. But like if you have card knowledge, you understand rarity, you understand how often something pops up, who you can move it to, what connections you have. So it's like at some point in time, you just have to shit or get off the pot. And I spent a lot of time in Atlanta trying to cultivate like connections with a lot of people that I hadn't done deals with before on the higher end market of it.
Yep.
I met this guy, and I had DM'd him on Instagram several different times, and we had never struck a deal. And it might be because he didn't know me or whatever, but I met him in person in Atlanta, and we were able to talk for 45 minutes to an hour, and I bought like $7,000 in cards off of him. And literally last night, he texts me and he's like, "Hey, I have these big cards, this CJ Stroud Color Blast, these huge cards," and he
Yep.
sold it to me. Stuff that isn't typically available like on the open market at a decent price. And because of how I'm buying these things now, I'm still making money, and I'm also building a lot of connections with people that are now willing to sell to me because. Not saying it's because I'm paying stronger per se, but I'm not scared because a comp doesn't make sense. You can still make money without being at, a certain percentage if you understand how cards work.
You gave a lot of good information. I'm just curious too. Who was the person that DM'd you? Because I wonder if we know them, like the guy on Instagram.
Oh, his name is Frank.
Is it Frank the Tank Cards? Is it
No.
him?
Trying to remember his Instagram handle. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll send a link to you later.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll either put it in the description or like I'll just laugh at it later. That's funny. I think you brought up a lot of good points too. And Kai, I meant to let you ask or let you answer about your favorite pick of Atlanta was, if you got any PC stuff.
Oh, mine's a lot more boring. I mean, I bought a few cool cards, like a AP like contenders on it, but I was mostly going for $10 to $200 cards just to grade. I've been kind of getting away from the buying it like per cents because it's just so tough with everyone doing that. I've been going more towards just trying to grade stuff, and
then sell it. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at grading, so I think I lean more that way, and it's just easier. It's less effort. I don't have the energy to argue with people over 2%. Like, I don't care. Like, so that can be for everyone else, but kind of probably more boring than most people's pickups this weekend. But.
No, I mean, that's fine. Like, you sold a bunch of stuff that you wanted to, right?
Yeah, I gave some stuff to Alt too. That was split, but yeah.
I think, well, I mean, obviously that's good to hear too. I think the point that Zion was getting to, and I think we've all kind of realized this, is the relationships that you've managed to build with the people who either have the connections to cards or you've been able to have the pleasure of talking with at a show for quite a while. Like, Instagram is a great tool, and I really love it. But I think as my time has gone through the Instagram journey, because remember, I've now been on this platform now 8 or 9 years, give or take. That is a long period of, the decade plus about a decade of sports card I've been in, which is crazy to say out loud. I've seen people come and go. I've seen people be known as the most legitimate people in the hobby, be scammers. I've seen everything under the sun. But one thing that's never changed really on Instagram for me was my username has been the exact same since I started. My picture has been basically the exact same since I started. I've posted basically every single card I've ever bought incoming on Instagram posts. People see I'm buying shit. I respond to people pretty quickly. I'm kind of a dickhead, but like at least I'm fair at the end of the day. And all those things together after that many years has shown that I've been able to build a reputation that people know and can trust. And frankly, I've noticed that those people who deal with me once or twice will want to come back and want to build that connection and establish that relationship and will come up to me at a show. Zion, you and I really didn't know each other before 1 or 2 Dallas shows ago.
Yeah.
And now
I remember I had, because I had been watching the podcast for a while. Fun fact, this is typically my my cleaning guilty pleasure. If I'm cleaning the house, usually I throw a podcast on and there we go. But I remember I brought it up because I was like, hey, like I watch your podcast. I know you guys, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what started our friendship. And then like kind of here we are. I'm on the podcast that I watch while I clean.
Can't listen to this one this week. I'm sorry. No cleaning.
I know. I got to wait a whole week for that.
It's all right. But like that ability to actually be like a human being at the end of the day, Instagram is a great starting point for a lot of things, but these connections that you make either at shows or like beginnings of inklings on Instagram or online, like really can like build into something else. And it's so crazy to say that out loud because once again, like kind of didn't know each other before sports cards. We were a couple years ago, and now we've run a podcast together. Like it's been a year plus of this journey, and it's just so funny that like if you're a decent person to deal with, or like you're someone who's actually able to like hold a conversation or like be something outside of just the trading cards and offering on comps, like, and I'm sure you guys have seen this a lot more now. I've made this joke a few times. I really do believe that 20% of the DMs I get on Instagram are from NPCs. They just cannot think critically. They're not able to like really get their point across. They just go to alt or card ladder, say, "Oh, this card sells for $500. I'll give you 400," and it's like that is not special. Like you unfortunately just exist as this entity that just wants to try and like make a quick buck, and that's perfectly fine. I get it, but like, what are you doing to separate yourself from the pack? Can you have a conversation with me? Have I met you before? What are you doing that like makes me want to sell you this card versus the hundreds of DMs I would get if I put it on my Instagram story? Like, what makes you special?
Yeah, and I know you've seen it. You've seen it kind of in person when we were at Trade Night in Dallas. Apparently, the way that my in-person deals go is a rather memorable event, and people come back to experience it for good or bad, and they remember it. So, when Dallas happens, when TriStar happens, or any of these other shows, and they know I'm going to be at that show, they specifically come to me because of, the deals we've done, the conversations we've had, all the hours we spent arguing for $20.
Yep. Sports cards are interesting. I'm curious to see though, as the repackers continue to grow, and it sounds like at the Atlanta show, that's really what's kind of happening. Is these people are getting in the day the show opens, if not earlier, for VIP action or whatever, buying out the stuff they can for like fair prices. And if the show ends for the majority of people at 1 p.m., fair price items are gone. Where do we go from here? In your guys' opinion, like, what do you think happens?
Well, it's weird because I mean that happens, but then the show on Saturday is still packed. I think it was maybe more of like a parent and kid like walking around looking at cool stuff, which I mean isn't for everyone. That doesn't help people that are trying to make money there. But the show was still busy, like even after that happened. I don't know if people restocked their inventory and then people walked around. I don't know. I just know it was really crowded and I was kind of surprised. I think for other shows, I don't really know if you can get around that because as long as there's an early access period, like people are going to buy people out. Like there's nothing you can really do about that. I guess you could bring extra inventory and save it till Saturday, but why would a dealer want to do that when they can sell it right away? So I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, do you guys have any thoughts?
And to make matters worse, you can kind of never stop an early access period because most of the people that walk around before the show starts are dealers.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't set anything up until probably an hour into the show itself opening because, I'm trying to run around myself and see if there's any good deals that someone threw out. I remember there was a small show in San Antonio, IPC large defensive back cards. And I happened to miss, someone had a Richard Sherman Black Finite Prism Auto, but one of my friends had bought it and sold it to me all before the show ever even started. So this card never got seen by anybody that was walking around the actual show. It's a lot of dealer to dealer sales, a lot of dealer to dealer's friends because people sell their badges or, what have you.
One thing you also mentioned too, and this is not a bad thing. I think the ability for cards to be sold and people to get bought out is a good thing. Shocking, I know. But we're just having the conversation about it from the dealer perspective and the collector perspective. So I want to make sure we give that context. And also, not for nothing, Dallas on Thursdays, because that is the only show I attend currently that has a VIP night. Maybe Burbank does too. I'm going to be there if there is. I get in a day early. Those are better than 95% of the shows that happen across the country. Just that day zero action, because people who come there want to spend money. They are flying in mostly. They're setting up a day early. And you know what? That Thursday trumps any Sunday during football season or like during the winter or anything else. Like even going into the summer, I probably don't intend on being there on Sundays. There's no real reason to if you're able to have a successful Thursday, which will make your weekend either go from $2,000 in the hole to possibly even breaking even on your trip or making some money before the show even officially begins for 95% of people who attend.
The biggest thing I notice about like Sundays, because like to your point, Sundays are almost at this point completely useless because you stay for an entire extra day. More often than not, I probably make an extra $100, $200. At that point, I'd rather just be home. I'd rather be in my own house. I'd rather be hanging out with my girlfriend. I'd rather be watching TV than dealing with the 30 people that actually do decide to show up on Sunday. You can knock out a surprising amount of business through like that Thursday to Friday region, especially at a show like Dallas, because people come in with $50,000 and they're like, hey, if I spend really hard on Thursday, I still have 2-3 days to move these cards. When you look at Saturday, people are a little bit more stingy because they're like, okay, I might have to go home with this card. But that Thursday to Friday region, especially the trade nights, people are spending willy-nilly because they know they have nothing but time.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, it obviously makes sense, and you're absolutely right. But like, yeah, I never think about that before. Zion, good point. Thank you. One other thing I want to touch on real quick before we move on from talking about Atlanta. Kai, you did not go to Cards HQ, but Zion, you did. We talked about it a little bit before the podcast started, but I want you to give, if you're able to, like a general overview of the vibe at Cards HQ.
So, general overview that I got. So throughout the hearing the YouTube videos and hearing people talk about it and hearing about the size, it's big, but it's not like huge. I know like it was thought to
Okay.
have been like this like gigantic quadruplex. It's decently sized. It is a bigger card shop, but it's not anything that's like astonishing when you walk into the doors. It was a lot. It was very kid friendly, which good thing. There's a lot of kids in the hobby. A lot of kids have to get their feet in the door. But overall, like I personally wouldn't like fly to Atlanta to go there. I know other people would. They had their whole like breaking station where like you like buy the wax and then you wait in line to open it live. The problem I saw with that was there was like 40 people waiting, and I was like, why would you buy a box of cards to wait for, an hour, 2+ hours to just even open it? I didn't understand it, but to each their own. Everyone has their own thing. I remember you guys talking about this. It was like a week or two ago about the whole like not taking offers on cards.
That was last week. Yeah.
I saw that happen firsthand. A buddy of mine wanted to buy a card that was priced at full comp, and he found that he was like, okay, worst case scenario, I lose a couple bucks, but I think this is a good card. And so he went to buy it, and what neither of us thought about was then you have sales tax, and then all of a sudden your full comp is now a full 10% over what you should be paying for the card. And I saw it happen on 3 to 4 occasions where people just put the cards back because
So
now
here's the question I have: were they paying cash, or even on cash they were charged sales
they
tax?
wouldn't take cash. They wouldn't take cash. He attempted to pay cash and they were like, we can only do card. I don't know if it was because it was like a pre-opening and they technically were not open yet, but they
Mhm.
were not taking cash. They were only taking card, and it was you had to pay sales tax on top of it. So like on a $900 card that you could probably get at a show or on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram,
Yep.
for even if you pay $800 on a $900 card, most people would do that because that's seen as relatively strong and fair. They wouldn't. No, you have to pay like I think it ended up coming out to like $1,990, something like that, something insane. Where it was like this doesn't even financially make sense to purchase this card anymore.
Yeah, that's scary. I don't want to talk about Jeff Wilson so much. I will just say in closing on that thought, damn, that's bad.
I know they still sold a bunch of singles because of how they priced it. They didn't price it like that day, and comps move very fast. So there was some stuff that was in there that was like underpriced. But I mean, once you like factor in, it's good for repackers, I guess, if they want to go that route. But like once you factor in sales tax and all that other stuff, I just didn't see the point in looking at the singles because at that point, like I might as well just go on Instagram. I might as well just go on Facebook. If you don't have like Prism Golds or 101s or something that I'm never going to see again, I don't need to buy a Brock Purdy base at 100% of comps. It's ridiculous.
The only person that doesn't like bother is probably like a mom buying something for their kid because they don't care. But
Exactly.
everyone else is gonna have a problem with that. Maybe not a problem, but it's not their preferred way to buy it. So I don't know. I don't really think you can do much there if that's going to be a strategy. I guess you have to pay sales tax, and they're not going to negotiate. So
they'll generate income from parents or children or teens who don't know much better. But anyone who has knowledge about sports cards will pass, and that's a strategy, and you're entitled to that. But I don't see it either. But anyway, in closing, that's in my opinion a bad idea.
If I were to give my guess, once inventory goes stale, you just throw it on Whatnot, you sell it to a repacker or something, liquidate out of it, and go buy a bunch more stuff, and then just like recycle the inventory to keep it, I guess, fresh. Because at the point of paying full comps, stuff is going to sit there for a little bit longer than maybe it normally would.
Yeah, I think that's true. And honestly, I mean, just talk about Whatnot for a second as well. You were considering going on the Whatnot journey. I had previously thought about it as well and said, you know what, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea for someone like me. But Do you want to talk whatnot? Do you want to talk about your thought about it?
Yeah, I'll probably be doing that within the next week or two. I had to wait to get all my branding stuff in because one thing I have learned, branding is super duper important. I have a sign at my table, and I realized that the sign that I purchased is like 2 to 3 feet smaller than everyone else's, and that bothers me. It like gets under my skin. So I literally, before this TriStar show yesterday, I went and bought all new signage, custom tablecloths, a bunch of random things because like just the perception is 80% of the battle.
Yeah.
So like I bought all my branding stuff for whatnot, so I'll start that in like 2 weeks or so. I'll be doing singles. Breaks is too much of a hassle. I'm just gonna throw random stuff up on there and see what happens.
Dave, we got to get you a life-size cutout of yourself for your table.
Yeah, I mean, one of me is bad enough. You want to put a second one around me?
Because you don't have anything. We got to get you some like
You
decor.
need some
for
branding.
your
You need
table.
something.
Yeah, you have
Here's-
stickers, right? That's about it.
I have stickers for extraordinary cards. I had a stroke. I forgot my old Instagram name. Extraordinary cards, sold to early podcast. I'm gonna have business cards for the new venture, which is coming out in a couple months, give or take. And that'll probably be where I put the branding. Honestly, like I work in marketing, and I don't give a shit. Like I just don't care. It's fine. I will market what I have to. But yeah, I'm not gonna put a tablecloth out for extraordinary card. Look at me, I'm so cool. Like I'm so like I have no interest in being famous. I have no interest in being a hobby legend or a goat. I want to be successful. Is being on a podcast talking about sports cards a little hypocritical at that point? Maybe. I don't know. I want to be successful. I don't care about fame. It means nothing to me. So go for it. Like I'm a hypocrite, I guess.
I've learned that you kind of have to do the dance with the devil to get to certain heights. Isn't the right word, but like for example, we were at Cards HQ and Card Collector 2 was there, and there was a line of people waiting to show them his cards or like sell him cards, and I was just like, man, he's living life on easy mode because he already has the clientele, the fan base, whatever you want to call it, where people are just pining to sell to him. And not that I necessarily need people to pine to sell to me, but
now here's the one thing though. I guarantee you those cards to all three of us are something we would not probably want.
1,000%. 1,000%. There's probably like 60 to 70% of stuff that he probably just says no to.
Yeah. But that once again, like that's fine. Like he's welcome to be an internet personality and a card collecting legend and all the good shit. I like Ryan. Ryan's a good guy, by the way. I'm not making fun of him. I'm using those languages because that's just what I'm used to. So sorry. He's a good guy. Like him a lot. I wish him the best. His shop, I hope it continues to grow. I hope he does whatever he wants to. I have no interest in that. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm very comfortable in my lane as what am I? Oh God. Someone who is what's that?
I said the antithesis, the anti-venom to the everything that we know.
I am okay with rocking the boat to the degree that I feel is fun. Because once again, this is sports cards and like people take it way too seriously sometimes. So if you dial it back to like 70% serious when not negotiating a deal, you'll be 100% happier. And that's kind of how I've accepted my role within this universe.
Dave, I would say you're like a high-end Goodwill. You have like all the random stuff that like people bring to you, and then you find the right person for it.
That's a good. I like now. Honestly, pretty funny.
I am Goodwill. That's funny.
I will take that as a compliment. Although, fuck you, Kai. What did you do? I was gonna bully. Oh, I remember why I was gonna bully you. Thank you for reminding me, Kai. Hey,
Luka.
what did Luka do to the Hawks this past week?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that would have been really cool to go to. I didn't want to go, but after seeing that, everyone was like freaking out about it at the hotel.
I'm sure
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. I will regret not going to Atlanta for that. I will not go to the show. What's funny is they're actually doing another one. I just saw them post in September. I will not go. I will not be attending. Moving through, and this was actually, I thought this would take up more of the podcast part, but it's whatever. Zion, you have had an incredible journey within sports cards. You were telling me about this last week or 2 weeks ago in Dallas, give or take. You managed to truthfully pull yourself up from not nothing, and I don't want to say it like that, but pull yourself from a position where you were not able to do much into growing your empire as it is, and where it's going to grow in the next couple of years. So, like, whatever you're comfortable sharing and like putting out there into the world, I would love for Kai and everyone to hear it.
I love the fact that you use the term empire, and maybe it's just the inner athlete in me, but like, dude, I take this as such a competition sometimes. You see my text messages, and I get so like amped and hyped about just the most random things with cards. But yeah, I've been doing trading cards now for. I used to open them when I was a kid. I was way more into like the Yu-Gi-Oh scene.
Same.
Yu-Gi-Oh was like the best thing ever made. I used to think that it like literally.
I started buying it again. I have like a little PC going.
I want to start buying it again, but I don't know what's a good deal and what's not a good deal because I'm just buying with my heart, and that's a dangerous thing to do.
That's exactly what I've been doing.
I refuse to do it until I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Gotta give you guys a change of heart over there. Not the super rare version, just the uncommon or rare, whatever. So,
dude, I just want like a blue eyes white dragon, some Exodias. Just
I was an elemental hero guy.
Oh, you were late in the game.
Yeah, GX sucks dick, Kai. I'm sorry.
You're the best.
You have 5Ds.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been doing cards now as a financial thing for like the last 3, maybe 4 years. It started when I was in college. I ran into some situations where I had literally no money or no way of acquiring money. And I found out I was in one of those Discords where like it was just about flipping things, just things in general. And people were talking about trading cards. And I was like, what is this thing? This is coming back? Great. And I found out that you could buy boxes at $20 and sell them for like $150. The rate of return back in those days made 0 sense. Like looking back on it, it was literally insane. I used to like sleep outside of a Walmart for like 2-3 days just so I could be like the first one in line. I'd hire my friends and they'd all come, and dude, you'd spend $300 and you'd be looking at like 2K and you'd be like, what just happened? I'm making more than most people make for working an entire week by doing absolutely nothing. And then the retail boxes died. So you adapt.
Well, now to be fair, they didn't die. What happened was, and I guess this was a national thing, obviously, because you're talking about it in Texas. I'm in New Jersey, and Kai, you're in Florida. Someone pulled a gun over trading cards and like retail wax, and then Targets and Walmart stopped selling them, at least to my knowledge.
They still sold them, but they added limits. When they started adding limits, and it was like you can buy 1 box, 2 boxes, all of a sudden it went from a thing of like, oh, there's this scarcity to, okay, they're still going to be there like tomorrow maybe. And prices dropped from, being $150, and it went to 100, then it went to like 70, and then it went to like $10 over. And then Panini said, oh, you guys are making too much money on the back end. We're going to make blasters more expensive. And that's really the final nail in the coffin for the whole retail wax thing.
Blasters are like $30 for like Prism now, right?
They're like 35.
Yeah.
That's so Megas used to be 40. It was like $40 for Megas, and now Megas nowadays are like 70. I want to say.
Yeah, they're like $65, $70 now.
There's no rate of return for investment for like opening those boxes. Like you're just burning money. But I remember one of my first like card investments was LaVisca Chenault. Anyone that has known me for a significant period of time will know that I was the biggest LaVisca Chenault believer. I was of the belief that, I'm going to buy 200 LaVisca Chenault base cards at $1 a piece, and he's going to blow up, and I'm going to sell them for $8 a piece. I'm going to 8x my money and blah, 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 blah. Up in smoke. Terrible idea. Hindsight 2020, that was a terrible thing. But yeah, one day I met this interesting gentleman, and he's not really active in the, I guess, card market in terms of like the same way that we are. Because he had bought some cards from me in the private market. And I asked him, I said, hey, can I sell cards for you? He had no reason to say yes. Like literally no reason whatsoever. But he said yes, and I started doing consignment, and that was where a majority of my money has came from the last like 2-ish years. Doing a lot of consignment, selling a lot of big cards, traveling everywhere. And it's just like as the months go on, I did a little flashback post from like, the stuff I had in 2020, and the turnaround is literally insane. I'm now casually buying 101s pre-stream for hundreds of dollars when I couldn't fathom spending that much money 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's just like crazy how kind of everything has changed.
Well, a couple of questions. Well, first off, do you still work with the guy who like let you sell the inventory to starter now?
Yes,
Nice.
100%.
That's cool.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Super cool. And what's funny is your growth in the sports car world went inverse with like what prices went for.
Mhm.
So not only have you have you seen the prices dip, your ability to buy them has gone up. And like now cards that might have been out of your reach a year or two ago because hey, it's too expensive. Now you're able to casually buy and be like, wow, like holy shit, I've mastered the matrix. I figured it out.
Dude, it's like I don't feel like buying and selling cards is necessarily hard. I look at it all as like a gigantic chess game. I love negotiating with people. It's my favorite thing in the world. I could care less about literally anything else. The negotiating with people is my favorite thing. It is why I wake up at 6 a.m. on a weekend to be the first one at a card show, because I literally live for negotiating with people. And it served me quite well in what I do. I just graduated probably a year ago from college, a year and a half ago. And this is kind of what I do full time now. And
what did you major in?
Communications. And I minored in entrepreneurship. So.
Okay. You and I have a very similar background then. Mine was my minor was international business. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mainly took my classes because I went to college for free. It was a lot, and I went to a really hard school, and everything they wanted us to do was just like assignment after assignment. And it's why up until recently I hadn't been at like all the national-ish card shows, and I was really only in Texas because I had to get back to school. And so that's why now I can travel a lot more because I don't have that responsibility anymore.
Well, listen, dude, I gotta give you a lot of credit too, and Kai, you this as well because you graduated last year at this point.
Last May.
Like, the fact you guys like are doing well in cards, like you're able to like afford nice things for yourself on top of continuing to grow your business, and you graduated college, like it's commendable because this shit will not last forever, good, bad, or otherwise. It just won't, and your college degree can never be taken away from you.
Yep.
I'm lucky in the fact that I graduated college. I guess I'm old compared to you guys, but not really. When did I graduate? 2018. I graduated 2019. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Okay, wait, actually, 2016. I have no fucking idea when I graduated college. It doesn't matter. The point is that like that can never be taken away from you. Mad respect for graduating. Good job, guys. Very proud of you. For what it's worth.
It was the logical next step. You just had to finish. You had to get it done. So that's what happened. I did my final thesis about Beckett. So I've been doing cards for too long.
That's funny. What was it about?
About how much I dislike Beckett. I wrote a 20-page thesis about my feelings about their company, about how it's ran, their advertising, their websites, the way that their products are made, all sorts of stuff. And I just ripped them to shreds. There's a whole pamphlet out there that I made. It's rough. I redesigned their logo. I redesigned their advertising. I did all sorts of stuff for Beckett. They would be blessed if I gave them any of that material.
So what you're saying is we have to go drop this off at PSA at the Burbank Card Show, and they have a hit piece on Beckett at that point.
Dude, it was like they asked me what did I want to do my project about, and I was like, can I do it about cards? And they were like, well, you have to find a way to make it like match with the major. And I was just like, man, I really hate how Beckett does everything. And so I just redesigned literally everything about Beckett. And there we go.
I mean, not for nothing, Beckett is probably the number 3 grading company right now. Like, there are benefits to using Beckett. I will only sub with them at the Dallas Card Show because it's on site, and like you get it back. You get it back theoretically by the end of the show. I know you and Zion had a little issue with Beckett. That is
your fault.
That is not my fault. That is Beckett's fault. But
What happened?
for context, Zion does not have a credit card. Fun fact, I found that out at the show.
Yes.
So he was standing at the front of the line. I'm at like the middle of the line, and he was like, "Yo, do you have a credit card?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't. Come up here." So like, I subbed his cards for him because they only took credit, not cash. And then there was an issue with 2 of my cards in my grading sub because they were graded by PSA and like SGC, whatever, or CSG, whatever. And they didn't know if they should crack them or not. And I said, "Hey, I want these graded in Beckett. Grade them." Never said graded card review. Maybe that's my fault, but it really is no one's fault other than like just Beckett subbing the cards.
Not using common sense.
They sat for a full day, and then we got them back Saturday. Zion's card got a BGS 9, which was great. That's what he was hoping for. One of mine crossed from a PSA 7 to a BGS 8.5, which is super nice. And the other one crossed from an SG or CSG 9.5 to a Beckett 9.5. So it was successful for both of us, and we both won. But we lost a day and a half of like being able to sell those cards.
Yeah, that card is at alt now, by the way. It's going to be
good shit.
February auction. Never
Beckett,
ran anything with him before, but let's see.
I mean, cash advance is nice there. You got what, 60% of the cash value roughly. So
yeah, it was. I want to say it was like 55-60%. It was a really good percentage. I was happy with it.
And I'm sure now like you're pretty close to your break even on it too, even with the grading costs. Like it's alt does something good there, and I enjoy that. It definitely has its appeal for that type of stuff. But going back to Beckett, that's the only time I'll ever sub with them is at that show. It's in person. It's a lot easier. Whatever else, they have fallen to number 3. Like they just have not like gotten the memo. PSA is down.
You think number 3 in like volume of people grading, or number 3 in like value?
It is number 3 in terms of volume of grading. I still prefer Beckett over SGC.
I was gonna say I think it's number 3 in volume graded, but I think it still sells for better than SGC for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's 2 in value. My thing is like I love black labels and I love BGS 10s, but I can't fathom sending them anything to even get the black label to start with, because I see some of these cards sometimes and it's like, how did you brain power and go, I'm gonna send this to Beckett over sending this card to PSA? It just never makes sense to me.
Well, their grading levels are so not like, they don't make you want to send them. Like I think a month service ends up being like $40 a card. And then I think the next option's like $25 for 3 or 4 months. And like at that point, if it's a clean card, you might as well just send it to PSA. So they don't really entice you. And then the fact that the resale is so much less than PSA, it's like you got to improve something here for people to, because I know back in the day, I don't know if you guys graded probably 5-10 years ago, but everyone loved Beckett, and I don't know, it's just not the same.
I know the main reason. Oh, you want to go?
No, you.
I know the main reason people use Beckett nowadays is for PSA rejects.
Yeah.
So, you get a PSA 8. I don't know if you guys have heard about the infamous Lamar Jackson.
The cracked ice.
Yes. So, it is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life.
So stupid.
So I'll put a photo on screen. I'll try and find it if I can on Facebook. If not, sorry. It was a BGS 9?
8.5.
It was a BGS 8.5.
Bad subs.
BGS 8.5 maybe went to PSA, maybe they just recracked and regraded. Point is, it black labeled. If I have that picture, I'll put it on screen. If not, sorry, whatever. That is fucking absurd. I don't care how else to describe it. Because that card had to be trimmed, altered, cleaned, whatever.
Or Beckett's just dumb.
Well, the only I remember the downside was they were it had a surface problem, and I just remember going in the comments and it was like, "Oh, my buddy wiped it."
Ruthless.
It was like, okay, fine, you wiped the card, but either A, you got a really inexperienced grader, or B, the first grader you had was an absolute just. Nazi and was like, you can't,
which is a huge problem. You can't have that big of a variance in grading.
It makes no sense. It blows my mind.
It was funny. I was gonna say it was just funny because on the thread on Facebook, no one wanted to buy the card because of that. It was just funny.
He sold it on eBay.
It moved?
Yeah, it sold on eBay. 20.5. I stay up to date on literally every card ever. I am on top of everything.
It wasn't an auction though, right? It was.
No, it was an auction. I'm pretty sure it was an
wow.
auction.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I did 20.5, I believe, and I think it was paid for. It was before the game, obviously. It was. I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago.
So that card in 8.5.10 is probably what a month ago, 5K, 6K maybe.
Yeah, it's like 5-6 grand,
Yeah,
easy.
like 4, 5, 6.
So that person 2.5 times their money by prepping that card. I assume prepping that card, cracking it at least, and then resubmitting it to Beckett.
Mm-hmm.
That is grading is subjective, and like it will always be. I mean, AI technology is fine, but whether these companies embrace it or not is a different conversation. What's funny is who might have the best grading technology is Arena Club.
I've heard about their stuff. I like, so you know how you watch a football game and you go, okay, the reason why the referees still do things the way they do is because they like the human error aspect. It adds a variance that you can't really predict.
Yep.
It's stupid, but I do quite enjoy sending a card that you're like, this is a PSA 8 all day. Because this happened to me once. It was like, this is a PSA 8 all day. Comes back, it's a PSA 10. It goes from a $400 card to a $3,000 card. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I see why people, I know that's why people even enjoy PSA, because their ranges vary so wildly. Like if you send at the bulk level, you probably get sent to their most inexperienced graders. So you send the expensive stuff bulk, and even though you know you're going to get upcharged, you get a bulk grader, and all of a sudden they don't know what to look for. They're looking at mosaic cards or color blast, and it's like, I can't even tell what the centering really is supposed to be. 10. There you go.
One of my favorite psychological tips I've been using for the last year or two with PSA. Feel free to try this for anyone listening, but I've been putting, it's probably very common knowledge, I've been putting the worst copy of the card on top of the better copy, and 99.999% of the time it works flawlessly. Like the bottom one gets a 10 every single time. Even if it's not perfect, if it's better than the one on top of it, it works without fail.
I've never thought about that. That is a genius.
It's just straight psychology. They don't. I swear it works without fail on everything.
That's good.
I'm gonna do what Zion did with Beckett and just bribe them.
Yeah. So for those that want to know what he is talking about, we were putting our, they take the cards from you and they put it in a box. So as they're putting it in a box, I pull out a $1 bill and I throw it in the box. And I'm just I'm hoping, please take this $1 bill as a sacrifice and give me a 9.5 or a black label. And that did not happen, of course. However, I still thoroughly am happy that I got a 9.
Yeah, that card was never going to 9.5.
What card was it?
It was a Paolo logo, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know that was really random to throw out there, but yeah, Paolo logo, man.
To be fair, it was really funny. The fact you got a 9, I was impressed by it because those edges were.
Was it NT or something?
Yeah,
it was NT. Yeah, a 5.
But what made it better is it's the 1 out of 5. I only knew of one other copy, and ironically enough, that other copy was in the room that day, and it was raw. And he decided to grade it as well. I knew my copy looked better than his, and I was hoping they do comparative analysis and be which one is better. He literally subbed it probably 4 people in front of me, and it worked. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, everyone walks away happy there. What else I want to talk about? What else is really going on these days? You guys are feeling passionate about, if anything.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
sports is kind of slowing down in real life. I mean, the Super Bowl will be in a week or two. And then if you like baseball, baseball is on. Basketball is kind of weird right now. I don't know. It's not that. There's a lot of high scorers, but the games itself, I haven't really been watching that much.
The issue right now is obviously the Super Bowl is gonna be exciting. I want the 49ers to win.
I want them both to lose.
I love Brock Purdy. I have no Brock Purdy. Also, I'll get this out there first. People who have the most expensive collections have the worst sports takes. Just putting that out there first. 100% influenced by the cards I own. Moving on from that, I own one Mahomes card right now that I subbed myself, and no Brock Purdy cards. I love Brock Purdy. I love the story. I hope he wins the Super Bowl because it's cool. Mr. All, it's a Super Bowl winner. Hopefully Super Bowl MVP. Seems very poetic. I want him to win. Moving on from that, games were fun. The NFC and AFC championship games were entertaining as hell. They're always going to be. Basketball is super weird right now, Kyle, like you mentioned, because the regular season is too long. I really am not paying attention anymore to it. I tried for about the first month of the new year, and I gave up. I'm super casual now watching basketball. I will pick it up in the summer when the playoffs begin.
Yep, same.
It's just a shame. Like the in-season tournament was a cool little idea, but it was okay. It got some interest because of the jerseys and the courts being different, but like I didn't care beyond that really, and I really will pay attention for the trade deadline, because from what I'm seeing, Kai, the Hawks are going to trade DeJounte Murray, and it'll make you unhappy, and that will bring me joy.
Great, that's amazing to hear.
I'm not super excited about the teams that went to the Super Bowl. I think that, the 49ers going to the Super Bowl is good for the market. I think if the 49ers win, it will still be good for the market. I don't think the Chiefs winning does anything to the market. I don't think really Mahomes can do anything to increase his prices. He's already super expensive. There's kind of nothing he has left to prove. If the Lions went, nothing would have changed in the market. It would have stayed exactly the same because no one's going to buy Jared Goff.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson losing did kind of hurt. I was pulling for them to win that game because I don't want to see Taylor Swift the entirety of the Super Bowl. I was really hoping they pulled that off, and they did not. But I'm a Seattle fan, so nothing that I like is in the playoffs whatsoever. Here we are.
I'm a Giants fan. It makes you feel any better.
Falcons fan.
Well, that's even worse.
Yeah.
I know. At least I've seen Super Bowls in my life, thankfully. So have you, Kai. LOL. No comment.
28-3.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we
fine.
still had our own end zone debacle, so I can't really. But we've been to 3 Super Bowls in my lifetime, and that's good enough for me.
You're lucky that my stupid quarterback beat Tom Brady twice. Otherwise, God, he would have 9. And the only person that would have stopped him would be Nick Foles.
Dear Lord. I was a big Giants fan in the Victor Cruz era. I would always pull for the Giants when they had their playoff run because
Mario Manningham.
That was a fun time.
We can go through just some random guys at that point, dude. Matt Bradshaw, obviously.
He was a beast.
Orleans Darkwa.
Who was the tight end?
Jeremy Shockey. We had
Jeremy Shockey was an insane individual.
What? Oh my God, I know
something up there.
Larry Donnell was the tight end as well. There's another one I'm missing in that.
Pretty
era.
sure Dan Campbell was a tight end for you guys too.
Dan Campbell was a tight end for the Giants for a year or two. Yeah, I saw that because of the
Giants fan over here.
Well, no, that was not before. Dan Campbell might have been before my time. I don't know when he played actually.
Hakeem Nicks.
Hakeem Nicks was not who I was thinking of. There's another tight end who I'm just blanking on his name for the Giants. Yeah, Dan Campbell played for the Giants from 99 to 2002. So I was
way
3 and then up to 6. Yeah. Who am I thinking of on the Giants that was the tight end I'm thinking of? Jeremy Shockey obviously is there. But now this is going to bother me if I don't find it. There's another random one. Oh, God. Hefty Lefty. Never forget. Kevin Boss was not who I was thinking of, but that's a good guy.
That's who I was thinking of, actually. So,
don't know who that is. So annoying. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the random tight end who played for the Giants. My bad.
In the early 2000s.
There's Larry Donnell. Daniel Fells was not who I was thinking of, but who came after Larry? It was.
I think you might have to give up.
Will Tye. That's who it was.
Oh, I remember Will Tye.
That's one thing I will say. I do enjoy finding cards of random obscure players that I did know very well. It's just who doesn't love a good old Patrick Peterson card from the early 2010s? Earl Thomas, all those guys. Yeah, they're Hall of Famers, but as far as hobby relevance is, there's not much. It's part of the reason I love buying them to collect because they're not that expensive and I can buy really cool cards.
I want to get a nice Cam Chancellor card.
Dude, okay, so fun fact, as a Seattle fan, there's almost no Cam Chancellor rookie cards. The only one that exists is paper. Your best bet is probably that like 2015 Topps Chrome.
They just started basically making autos for him, right? Like 2 years ago, I think.
He's had autos the last, I want to say, 3-ish years. But like the amount of Cam Chancellor cards that exist are actually very, very, very limited. You're gonna find like it's like flawless Spectra, stuff like that. Like you'll find a Cam Chancellor.
I think he had like the Super Bowl one too, right?
Yes, he did.
Paper.
He did.
Yeah.
I'll pull up my screen real quick. There's actually some cool ones on eBay.
Here we go. About to spend some money.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, there's a Super Bowl one. Does he have game used though, or does he not?
I believe he does.
That's a nice one. That's the Super Bowl one that Kai's talking about from 2022 Select.
The one that I want is so 2014 Prism. They came out with a Legion of Boom card.
I had a couple of those.
I want the gold or the black finite. I know that's a like tall task to ask. I have never seen the gold. I can't even find.
I sold the silver as a PSA 9 for like $70.
Well, there's like I find the colors all the time, but like I've never even seen someone post the gold to like show it off and be like, haha, not for sale. You're never getting it. I've never seen the card. There's one sale in like 2015 on a gold for like $72. I would kill to time travel and go buy that because I've yet to find another.
I think that's the only card in that entire product that's like that, right? I don't think they have any other.
I think there's like 2 others, but I don't know off the top of my head. I do know that that's like because I'm in the Seattle Seahawks fan Facebook groups or whatever. You don't see it really that often. There's a couple different variations. There's like purple, there's red, there's like this red yellow, but there's like this pink and tie dye. Those don't pop up very often, but the gold has like never shown up, ever.
Dave, what are you doing?
I was just trying to see if there's any game used Cam Chancellor stuff because all like the nice patches from like Flawless.
I'm pretty sure that's game used.
Let's see. It is player worn.
Oh
So
wow.
they lie.
Game day.
I've always wondered why the people that list these cards on eBay, it's clearly player worn. Like, why are you putting game used in the title? It just doesn't make sense. Like,
they're hoping that,
like someone's gonna buy it and then just realize it's not game used, and it's like, I don't know.
That doesn't picture the back. I imagine that is not game used. People do that, Kai, because they are trying to trick people into buying shit, and they don't know any better. Oh wow, the 1 of 1, 278. That doesn't seem like a bad price, but it's a 9. Okay, I mean Cam Chancellor stuff is reasonably priced.
The Cam Chancellor is pretty cheap. Most defensive backs are like really cheap. The only one that's kind of expensive right now, Deion Sanders, is relatively expensive.
Yeah, but Deion signs everything though. You can get a nice Deion Sanders patch auto for probably like $300.
Yes, but for a defensive back, that's relatively expensive.
Dude, $60 for this card with shipping. Like, I'd be happy with that if I got that in a deal.
That's not
that's
bad
cool. Yeah. I imagine Sauce Gardner sells pretty well too because like he's still relatively new in the league. Like people want him.
But like I just bought. I don't know if you had seen. I had just bought Sauce Gardner's Optic Gold Vinyl 101 auto.
I know you got some Sauce Gardner. I didn't know that you had that.
That's the only one I have.
Okay.
It's enough sauce for me. All I need is one. I just need the biggest one possible, and then I can stop.
Works for me. And on that note, Kai, Zion, anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up, or no?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Listen, dude, Zion, thank you so much for joining. Where can people find you on Instagram or eBay or any other platforms that you use?
At PBGCards. There's another guy that also has a handle that's at PBG_cards. Guy's a total tool. Not me. Mine has a logo. Mine looks more professional, and mine has more interesting conversations. So come find me. I'm at most shows. I am black guy with dreads. You know where to find me.
There you go. I'll make sure to link back to your Instagram in our description. I'll make sure to tag you in the post when this goes live. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Next week, I got to figure out some guests, actually. There is one person I want to think of joining if we can make the schedule work. He used to work at PSA. He was not a grader, but he worked in the authentication department. And that brain blast moment happened while we were talking about PSA. Hopefully I can get him on. Hopefully we can make the schedule work, Kai. But we made it work with Zion. Thank you so much for joining, man. We appreciate you greatly. Tune in next week where we try to get a guest on from not from Beckett, because Zion will bully them.
I will riot.
I'll make sure not to do that. But thank you so much, man. And we'll thank everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next week.